Welcome to Season 5 of the Foyne Jones Show. In Episode 7, I'm joined by Jamie Pearce of Agency 53. A little bit there makes all the difference, Charlie. That little bit just there. Okay, here we go. We are back in the studio. It's another day, another recording, and the guests are getting better. We are recording in Brighton. We have got a guest from Brighton. Jamie's with us today. Jamie Pearce from Agency 53. We're going to get to know what Jamie's doing at the moment. We're going to talk about the construction industry, and we'll talk a little bit about Jamie's past, because similar to myself, he's been involved with builders merchanting from the get-go, and that is something which always resonates with me. Jamie, welcome to the show. You a little bit hungover, a little bit tired from last night's events?
I'm tired, mate. I'm not going to lie. The 2.5 hours it took to get to Stratford...
it shouldn't take that long either, should it?
No, it really shouldn't.
Like when you look how far it is.
Honestly, it's the most painful journey in the world.
Yeah.
And if you want to go from Ashford up, it's 3 times the price.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But a 90th minute equaliser, is there anything better? I don't think there is.
I don't know, stoppage time winner, maybe.
Yeah, I can take that. But
Yeah.
it just, 8 unbeaten against West Ham, and they still can't beat us home or away. So I thought it was going to come to the end last night, but, good old Morpay. Morpay, more goals.
Hero to zero, mate, and we will get on to the main part of the show. But I mean, it was all over the wireless at the weekend about about Brighton fans being careful what they wish for. Apparently a small section of the crowd was not happy that you're 8th in the league and not happy that you didn't beat Leeds.
It's a funny one, and I've been a season ticket holder for sort of 30 years. So going to Halifax on Tuesday night.
The Shay.
Yeah, and then get it cancelled, and then going back up on Saturday for it to be cancelled. Sort of like we've had the bad days. So for me, this is the good days, and I think a few of the boo boys, probably the new ones that have come through that haven't seen the past, and I don't think it's booing because the team are playing badly, because they're not playing badly. I think it's frustration about strikers and not signing the striker. But I also go, well, Morpay was scored 6 goals this season. You took him out the team for 3 games, loses his rhythm, and probably should have scored a brace against Leeds. But we're creating chances. I'd be more annoyed if we weren't creating chances. I think what Potter's, the brand of football we got playing now, I think it's fantastic. We had 80% possession in the first 20 minutes last night.
At the times I've seen Brighton, I really like the little fellow on the wing from Chelsea. I really like him, and the club. It just reminds me of a football club that's being run the right way off the pitch, and it's doing things the right way. I've got history with Brighton that goes back so long. So Brighton is one of those few football... Charlie, we will get on to the main purpose of the podcast, but we'll do the football bit now. I'm going to put my Fulham hat on. So there you go. But we do. We've got history with Brighton in terms of, when we were both in the lower league, so Division 4, Division 3 as they were, it was the game, when you're a London boy from West London, it was a game you wanted to get in August, or you wanted to get it in April. You wanted to make it a day out by the seaside, and over those years, I've seen Fulham play at the Goldstone, lose at the Goldstone, win at the Goldstone. I've seen Brighton win at the Cottage, lose at the Cottage. I've seen Fulham play at the Withdean. I've seen Fulham play you at Gillingham. So I've been on that journey. And yeah, there are memories of drunken trips to Brighton. There are tear-ups. There are the things that make football what it was growing up on the terraces. So looking at how the club nearly lost everything, which Fulham did.
Yep.
We were nearly Fulham Park Rangers. And so we nearly went out of business. Jimmy Hill saved the club with a manager that went to Brighton, Mickey Adams, and he took a lot of the Fulham players down there. Chippy and Cullip and Morgs went down, and they got us promoted from the old 4th to the old 3rd that summer, similar to what happened to Brighton. This crazy Egyptian man from Harrods bops along. He says, I'm going to buy this football club. I'm going to turn you into the Man United of the South. We thought he was bonkers. Yeah. He says he's going to get to the Premier League in 5 years. He got us there in 4. We stayed up for 13 years. How dare we? We got to a European final. We were seconds away from a penalty shootout. And I don't know if you know this fella called Aguero dipped his shoulder, whipped it into Forlan, and we got beat in stoppage time in the Europa League final. So Fulham have been on that journey. We're now too good for the Championship, and probably it will depend on our signings whether we hold our own in the Premier League. But, Jamie, I kid you not, there were Fulham fans this week. We've scored more goals than any other team in Europe. We are comfortably top of the league. If we beat Scotty Parker's Bournemouth tomorrow night, we go well clear of them. We drew. How dare we? We drew 2 games on the bounce. The fans are turning, saying it's not good enough. What do they want?
Isn't that not what you just love about football, though? Like, you can have... a football fan is so fickle that you can... One minute, you can absolutely love your team.
Yeah.
And the next minute, because you haven't scored, you're the world's worst. And I think for Brighton, you've got to get some perspective on it. You know, a bit like Potter said at the weekend, you know, a bit of a recap about where we are. Because where we've come from to where we are now, you're reassessing about what... We were 4th after 6 games, and people were going, oh, yeah, Europe, yeah, we're going to European tour. And you go, no, think about where we were. Because, you know, we were at Hereford, last game of the season, and if we'd have lost that, see you later.
See, I've been through that emotion, right?
Yeah.
I went to Torquay and Fulham had to win. Fulham had to win to stay in the Football League, right? Fulham lost. Another team lost by more goals.
Yeah.
They went down, we stayed up.
Well,
Next year, Ian Bramford gets sacked, Mickey Adams comes in, like, gets us up, our fight. But it's so small margins.
Yeah. And you look at, you know, when Storer scored the last goal at the Goldstone, you could argue that actually, if that hadn't scored the week before, there'd have been, because there was so much momentum being built, and actually the fans had so much to do with it because of what happened. We won't go into that because that's a whole different episode.
That's an episode in itself. But what I would say, great football team, great fans, great stadium. I love it when Fulham play at the Amex because, you know, it means I can bring half of my family, all the people I grew up with to wherever I am. It'll be Lewis, New Haven, you know, and they will go to the game and fair play. You know, we win some, we lose some. There's no real rivalry between the teams, but it's just, it genuinely does. It takes me back to being like 15, 16 years of age and first being able to go away with the big boys and just getting up to stuff you do at football.
I love Craven Cottage. For an away day, there's
it's
nothing
the best in the world, isn't it?
Because you walk down the river, it's an old stadium, it's a proper ground.
And you're coming from Putney, which is a beautiful place.
And we usually do really well up there.
You do, to be fair.
So actually,
it's one of those things.
We won't mention the knockout and Lewis Dunk scenario a couple of seasons ago when you went 1-0 up and we absolutely destroyed you second half, but we'll leave that for another day.
I think there was one when we were like 3-0 down and half time and we won.
I don't remember that one actually.
That was one. That was in a season we weren't doing too well. But I can take. Oh gee, we could go on and on. So some of the ones from the early days are really cool for me. But let's move on to where you are right now, Jamie, and what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah. So Agency 53. So marketing made simple, which with the construction sector isn't always the case. But for us, it's really sort of educating construction and pushing it forward into sort of the 21st century. You know, my background's marketing, especially when builders merchants. You know, for us, it's about helping construction, you know, push forward and getting noticed using marketing and creative content with the pure purpose to sort of interact with, you know, our clients, with their customers. Construction last year was, you know, I'm sure you're aware, was absolutely mental, you know. It was non-stop. You know, consumers, you know, were sort of wanting to do DIY projects as well as, you know, people, normal, you know, the builders want to push it through and actually get the extension done. And I sort of had like a realisation that I've always wanted to sort of run a marketing agency and work with my business partner. And we've always done small projects together. And I just rung him up sort of late September and said, if we don't do it now, we're not going to do it. And he said exactly the same thing. So we went to uni together. We met on the first day. So like the Agency 53 concept, everyone goes, why 53? And the principle is we spent probably 6 hours in a Starbucks in Horsham going through the branding. And I just said to him after about 6 hours, I said, what about like Agency 53? You know, we used to live at 53 at the house in Southampton. And he was like, absolutely. And it fits nicely because it's the journey of where we started to where we've got to. You know, best mates. I was, you know, usher at his wedding. I was a godfather to his kids, and it just felt right. So we've come together, launched it in January, you know, as a full service agency. He's a graphic design creative director by trade, obviously my marketing background. And it's, just I just felt there was a niche within construction to actually provide a service and like an education about how we can help merchants go forward, because it is a very traditional sector. 10 years ago, they said to me, have you got an e-commerce platform? I'd say a lot of them actually didn't, but COVID sort of pivoted and they've actually had to do that.
And I think we saw the world wake up. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, the story behind Agency 53, Charlie should turn it into a song, because it's songwriting there. There's a real story behind it. We met at uni, we lived at 53, but actually there's trust there, there's friendship, there's a chemistry that you can't. Foyne Jones is 100% mine. It's been mine for 4 or 5 years now. But me and Foyne met working for Travis Perkins when we were like 17, 18 years of age, and that was when I had my eureka moment. I was London sales director for Juice, and I was 27 years of age. It was becoming very Saint-Gobain corporate led. It was an amazing opportunity. I think I was the youngest grade 2 director in Europe at the time for the business. So you had everything that went with that, and you were getting pushed and pushed along. And I went through a stage where I didn't want my boss's job, and I was falling out of love with what I was doing. And I had my eureka moment. And when I had my eureka moment, driving down the M40, somewhere near Oxford Services, it was, I know what I can offer and I know what I can do, but I also know what I'm not very good at, and I also know what I need support on, and who do I trust? Who can I go with? That's where Foyne Jones was born. And it sounds like that coffee shop in Horsham had a lot of those conversations.
Absolutely. So, very much, in terms of like sort of developing relationships and actually working with people is my really strong point. Like, I can talk and understand and get people to understand from a different points of view. That's my forte, and sort of marketing and going forward with it. His is very much actually delivering it. So from a web perspective, a social perspective, and it just worked.
Yeah.
It worked because we've been best mates since we were 19. We're families are close, but also we've got lots of common interests and goals, and it just worked.
Yeah, and you get that, and then something else you said, which I think really the listeners should get this, and it's so important, because so many people look back. I own a specialist recruitment business, and you see people that are on the hamster wheel. They're just going through the motions, and they're not happy, but they're always going to be not happy because they're not doing anything to change it. I'm putting on weight. Well, you've got to change something. You've got to run more, eat less, drink more. You can make those changes. But in your career, when it's those life-changing moments, it's easy to play it safe. Stick or twist syndrome. Yeah. 90% of people stick. 95% of people stick. But if you twist and you go for it, and you ignore the fact that what if it goes wrong? What if it goes right? Yeah. And so you can spend a lot of time not doing it. You've gone for it. You're up and running. You loving it?
Absolutely. Do you know what? I kind of wish I'd have done it sooner.
Yeah.
But what I do miss is actually working in the merchant. The buzz, the feel, the people. I mean,
people don't get this, because I have this emotion. They're going, what do you miss about a 6 o'clock start in a cold yard with a lorry driver growling at you? I said, I love it. It's what I'm about.
It's a relationship industry, and until you work in the sector, I don't think you really understand it. I mean, I was at the BMJs, the Builders Merchant Journals, on Friday. First time everyone's got together for like 2 years. Do you know what? There was such a buzz in there. It's just nice to see people, and because they're not sort of colleagues become friends and they become part of the family. That's what it is. People do business with people, and that's what the industry is about. It's about working together and pushing forward.
So let's take this what you're doing. So marketing for the construction industry, and when we put together like the script, which we've brilliantly ignored, which is always the best way to ignore the script and just talk football. Sorry, Charlie, we just roll with it. We just roll with it. So I actually put down, and I was thinking about the best way of describing and waking industry up. So you're putting marketing content, marketing strategy, marketing plans in place for what I lovingly mean this, so the haters can hate, but it is an old school, old fashioned industry in terms of its approach. How do you see it starting to wake up? What do you do?
I think the bit of your first point, there are two markets you've got at the moment. You've got the first generation that started the businesses, so the fathers, maybe first generation, that started the business and they started it and they're going into the branch. They're spending 3 hours a day in branch. They're having a coffee with, Stan on on the counter. They're quite happy getting their plans printed. They're probably doing that journey 4, 5, maybe 6 times a week, probably wasting 10 hours, but they don't see it as wasting. Whereas you've got the sons and daughters coming into it, second generation, that are going, I'm not being funny, Dad, but why do you need to spend sort of 7 hours of your working week in the merchant when actually you've got the ability to click and collect, you've got the availability to actually have your plans on PDF, you can click and collect on a roof. You know, I want to be able to specify a time, and that's the emerging market that's coming through. So a lot of people say, why digital marketing? And I go, well, because digital marketing has the potential to achieve incredible results at such a low cost in terms of ROI, that increasingly businesses are going, right, yeah, this is something we need to look at. And actually, with our perspective, like, twofold, I've come from the merchant background into an agency. I know what works, what doesn't work, and how best to lay it across in layman's terms, because that's what it is.
That's part.
It's an education.
Part of that educational piece is landing it within the branch, landing it within the key, because the key stakeholders are John on the counter, Jane on the telephone, you know, and it is Becky in the yard. That, you know, if they're buying into the concept of what you're doing, they all come with you. But that is leadership, that is communication, and it are those areas which. And I was talking to Bart, but you know Bart was in the last episode.
Also a really nice guy.
Yeah, great teeth as well.
Really, oh, well.
Best teeth in merchanting, mate. I said that to him. But Bart, again, you know, MP Moran, boy and man. Right, so he's been on that journey. So you can see where he is now, and he's putting up amazing results with the HSS implants. But when you hear him talking about, you know, the buzz of a branch, the feel of a branch, you know. And we're all looking for that. We're all looking for that moment. So I grew up in an era of merchanting in the 90s, mid to late 90s and early 2000s, where some of the managing directors, CEOs and leaders of today were at junior level, you know, and they were running a branch, working in the yard, managing a sales team, and they sort of pulled people with it by luck, by judgment or whatever, and you see how things have evolved. Consolidation's changing everything. You know, you know that as well as probably as good as anyone. Consolidation's changing everything. You know, I used to have 100 customers. I've now got 25 customers. I might have more, I might have less, but you see lots of change from a recruitment perspective. From a marketing strategy and the power of content, there's so many different angles to explore. When you're talking to your partner, your client, the businesses you're working with, you know, those discovery meetings, they must be so amazing, because you're looking at everything the business offers, aren't you?
Do you know what I really love is when you see the penny drop, and they go, I get it. And I say to them, look, I know you want to run before you can walk, but actually, let's think about, because 9 times out of 10, when you go to them and they start saying this is what you want, what they actually want isn't what they need. And you sort of go, right, what are your aims and objectives? What do you want to achieve? How are you going to measure the success? And that's when they start looking at it. And I say, you know, like it or not, the world is becoming increasingly digital. I mean, we've come into the studio today, no key. Charlie's got it on his phone.
He's got a magic phone.
Yeah. But that's the sort of
when
level
I
we're going
grew up,
to.
right, if that was on a TV show, you'd go, that can't happen.
Yeah.
You know.
But if you've got to the point now, from a merchant perspective, look, if you ignore digital going forward, you are going to be left behind, because your audience are now growing up with it, so you haven't really got a choice. You are still going to have your traditional sort of customer who actually wants to come in, but it's going to be ever decreasing. You just look at the market at the moment in terms of the skills gap coming through. There's an issue because it's not been sorted for 10 years. And the 10 years it's been waiting, HGV drivers, been a problem for 15 years. But people aren't waking up to it. It's only now that there's a real issue.
We did a whole episode 1, you know, Back to Biz episode 1, Damien Waters, BIKBBI, Stephen Johnson, KUKA UK. We did a whole episode about the apprenticeships, the skills gap, you know, the fact that we're putting all of this money into R&D and we're developing amazing products, amazing solutions, you know, beautiful lifestyles, but there's no one to install. And that isn't a quick fix. That's a 5 to 10 year fix, and you can see that as an opportunity. But the digital marketing footprint, the e-commerce footprint, the online trading, more and more of the conversations I'm having, probably with some of the same businesses you are.
Yeah.
But the conversation I'm having is about, we need a digital marketing manager. I need an e-commerce manager. I don't actually know what they want them to do or what they are, but they know they need them.
Yeah.
And there is that wake up, and I do think the pandemic helped to an extent because we were forced digital, we were forced, but that also creates lots of bad content. It also creates lots of bad marketing just for the sake of marketing. That's where your challenge is. It's to focus on what good looks like.
The term is content is king. Well, actually, I'd say content isn't king. Good content is the stuff that you need, because you can put out tons of content. You could put out sort of 40 posts a week, but if none of them are any good or relevant, then what's the point in having the content? You might as well always go do 2 things really well, then do 5 things badly.
Yeah. And consistently do those 2 things well.
Absolutely. Consistency is the big message on it.
Well, that makes a difference with everything you do. It becomes, if it's fitness or sport, it becomes muscle memory, so it becomes second nature. But then it's developing the good habits. And I'd imagine if Agency 53 could help a merchant, you start with what do they want to achieve, where do they want the message they want to send out, and I get I'm not on that side of the desk, but looking at it through the eyes of their customer, and work backwards, that's where the pressure points are.
Yeah.
You said it there. I'm going to give up 4.5 hours of my day or 4.5 hours of my week to go in and out because I'm disorganised. The construction industry, God bless its soul, is by nature disorganised. It's lastminute.com.
Yeah.
And that's education, isn't it?
And also, I think, in terms of service, the reason why the term service is so applicable is because people are unorganised. So actually, you bring up on a Friday night, so they can have delivery Saturday morning. If it was organised, you wouldn't have that. But that's part of the service that you give. But going forward, click and collect, from a lifestyle well-being point of view, from sort of the pandemic, if you could give them back 6 hours to spend with their family, would they take it?
I'd shake your hand now.
Exactly, of course you would.
Or fist bump, or whatever we're allowed to do. We'll do whatever we can.
And that's the beauty about with sort of digital now. You can advertise to such a specific demographic, right down to sort of their interests, that you couldn't do.
But this is something that it's not just your job. This is something you're passionate about.
Oh yeah,
because you're coming to life and you can see this. I love this with guests. Is when it's like when you get onto something, you see how someone comes to life talking about their football team, and then you can see how they're coming to life talking about their business, and you're talking about the strategy behind the marketing. That energy, that passion, that's where I've got no doubt that the owners, the entrepreneurs, the people whose money it is, the people whose bonus or responsibility is on delivering, they're going to buy into that, and that's why you're being successful.
Yeah, I think for us, as a business, the most rewarding thing for us is actually educating the customer, working with them long term, and actually, because everybody does, you can do one-off projects, but if you come into a partnership and you start educating them, and actually, if say they do leave in a year's time, but you've imparted a little bit of knowledge, so actually they're better off afterwards. That to me is brilliant. Then we deliver on great campaigns. That for me is a sort of a tick in the box. And I think I was saying to Mike the other day, I think sometimes you've got to sit back and actually just assess what you've done in a year.
It's difficult to do that.
And it is.
I was kind of, because I'm Charlie. I've got so many different ideas, and I'm like, right, recruitment, we're doing this. Okay, right, yeah, we will do that digital storytelling. Yes, we can film the celebrity chef cooking. So I'm almost having 3 different conversations continually with everything else that's going on. But then, earlier this week, I just stood back, Jamie, and I just looked at some of the amazing recruitment my business has done this year. And I then took that and I thought, right, there is a story I can tell about that. Yeah. And then there's a video I can do about it. So in the work we're already doing every day, there is content, there is marketing, there is stories, there is videos, there is creativity. And I bet this happens to you. You sit down with your potential clients in a room like this, you're doing your well, we're not interested. We don't do anything. We've got nothing to say. And that's where you have to shake them and bring them to life, isn't it?
Even a typical drop to a customer, and they go, well, we do that sort of 20, 25 times a week. And you go, yeah, you do. But that content, because you're meeting 25 different touch points, you can deliver that. So you could have, a short video that actually you can sort of push out, and you can cut it in so many different ways, shapes, or form, which is where sort of the big role of content creation is starting to come in, because it really is impactful. Yeah. If you've got a choice of reading a 5-page white paper or consume a 2-minute video, what are you going to do?
Yeah. And that's the reality, and that's the reality as well. And the game is changing. The game's never going back, and we all are evolving. So I think from a first half of the podcast, Charlie, we covered a lot there. But I want to give you some Agency 53 time. So I'm an independent merchant, right?
Yes.
I've got 3 branches in the Midlands. I'm not sure what I should be doing about my marketing in 2022. What can you offer me? How can I get in touch with you? How does it all work?
So we're open to anyone. So what I would say is, the door is always open. If you're looking for sort of a chat, or sometimes just want to talk to someone and just understand what it is that you think we need, and maybe we can steer you in the right direction, then we're only a phone call away. I think, don't get me wrong, I love Zoom. It's got its purpose, but I'm more than happy to come up, talk to you, speak about what you can achieve, what you're looking to do. It could be that you've got a new e-commerce setup that you're looking to push through. So whether it be a web build and design, social media management and content creation, or if you're looking more of a brand overhaul, we can help you. We've got.
And you are taking the pain away. You're taking the complexity away. Digital marketing it's not a dark art.
It's not a
dark art, right? So that's something which I think we've got to re-emphasise, and I love that. We pioneer world-leading video technology, right? It's what we're all about, but there's nothing better than meeting people for real.
Absolutely. If you say to me, look, I just want to have a chat for a couple of hours, would you mind coming in? Absolutely. Because I go back to it's a people business. Yeah. Actually sitting down, talk to you, getting into the branch, and actually assessing what you can actually do. And everyone goes, it's always about budget, and you go, it's not about budget, it's about investment. Yeah. And a lot of the time I hear it's a cost. It's only a cost if you want it to be a cost. But what you don't see is the investment that you put in and what you get out of it. And that's the beauty of digital marketing, is that actually all the analytics are there.
And we're recording today in one of the greatest hubs for all things creative and digital in the south of England. So,
well, some would argue the best city in the UK.
I would say that Fulham for me will always be home.
Yep.
I'm from there. I'm born and bred. 35 years of my life there. My wife's family are there. So I am Fulham, and I'm old school Fulham. But we moved to Sussex. I tell this story a lot. We moved in 2010, and I think it's one of the most beautiful places in the world to live. I love it down here, mate. I love it down here. It won't stop me cheering really loudly when Fulham turn over Brighton, but let's hope that happens again next season in the Premier League. Jamie, great start to the show. When we come back after the break, we are going to be talking about Go Construct. We'll be talking about the next generation of merchants and construction professionals, and we will wrap things up with a closing message. Thank you so much, mate.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, are you ready? The digital revolution is no longer a spectator sport. It's game on. The magical art of storytelling is the future. Social, content, branding, podcasts, video marketing, and virtual 360 tours. This is Jones Digital.
Jamie, here we go. Right, second half of the show. We have spoken about Fulham's victories against Brighton. Apparently, we've occasionally lost the odd match, so I'm gonna go with that and just say you're in a better league than us at the moment. Hopefully we can play again next season. And contrary to press reports of AC Milan, Juventus, Barcelona, Real Madrid, and PSG, I think we Alexander Mitrovic will still be wearing the number 9 shirt for Fulham next season. That's so. What I believe. The boy's on fire. He's putting up records. I think he hasn't scored for 2 games, so but we've got a big game tomorrow. I'll be there tomorrow night. We've got Bournemouth at Craven Cottage, so let's see where that pans out. Who you got the weekend?
We've got Southampton.
Home or away?
Away.
Going?
I've got a wedding, unfortunately.
There you go.
I say unfortunately, it's a friend of mine. Really looking forward to it, but also you can't beat an away day.
That's a nice one for a Brighton fan as well, isn't it? Just along the coast.
It's a local derby, which is never a local derby in a month of Sundays.
We have so many. I mean, if you walk 10 minutes in any direction from Fulham, you go to Queen's Park Rangers or Chelsea. So we are in a borough of football teams. And
here's one for you.
Go on, mate.
If you had to, and say Fulham were off the table, who would you support?
Lewis.
No, I mean I'm giving you Queen's Park Rangers or Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why.
Because you really hate QPR.
I come out in a rush if I go past Hammersmith Broadway, and that puts you near Shepherd's Bush, right? So that's part of it. When I went to school, we didn't like the schools from Hammersmith and Shepherd's Bush. They didn't like the schools from Fulham. But the bigger reason is that where I grew up at Fulham Broadway and Fulham Road, I could hear the Shed singing Carefree out of my bedroom window. You know, I was much closer to Stamford Bridge. Yeah. That was in the days of Dog Track. That was when Chelsea was Chelsea. You know, Kerry Dixon, David Speedy. You know, so my granddad had a market stall down Northern Road Market, and if I used to pull the barrow out, he'd give me £3 or £4, and I could go and watch either team. So I used to be £1 a day. Go and watch Chelsea in the first division. You know, they'd be playing Liverpool, Arsenal. Didn't really care if they won or lost, but I used to watch them. Then the next week, I'd go and watch Fulham play Mansfield Town in the fourth division. So very different experiences.
You say that, but there's nothing better than sort of lower league football.
Oh, mate, there isn't. And Fulham were always my team, and the story behind it, and people who listened to the previous 4 seasons will know the story behind this already, is my granddad used to follow both clubs, and most people did that back then. They'd go Fulham one week, Chelsea the others. But he was also quite a character. I'd use that word as best I can. He was a character from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and he came out of... He was in a drinking club, Fulham Conservative Club on Shoals Road, where a lot of the characters from the market used to drink. And he just spent a bit of time in Her Majesty's custody, in Her Majesty's prison. And he was in a betting shop, and Johnny Haynes and a couple of Fulham players walked in, and they started talking to him. And Johnny Haynes at the time was England captain. You know, he's Fulham captain, England captain. And he gave my granddad a score. And he said, "There, mate, like, take that, keep yourself out of trouble, come and watch us at the game, but, you know, good luck now you're out, don't do the wrong thing." He became a Fulham fan. I wouldn't say he necessarily took Johnny Haynes' advice, but, you know, he from that moment he was a Fulham fan. So I went to school. You would have walked through Putney, through Bishop's Park. My school was in Bishop's Park, St Mark's School, Fulham. There was 4 Fulham supporters in my year, because we were in the 4th division and everyone else supported Liverpool, right, or Chelsea.
Exactly the same when I was growing up.
And that's the world. So you would have been through that as well, right? And we are where we are now. I think that, in answer to your question, I would go Chelsea. I don't have the animosity to Chelsea like a lot of Fulham fans do. One, because of how close we were, but also we never played each other. Yeah. I have one last wish as a Fulham fan. I've seen us play in Europe. I've seen us play at Wembley. Nearest I got to Wembley before was Wembley Market, but I've got to Wembley, and I've seen us win a playoff final. Seen us in the Premier League. I would love to see us win at Stamford Bridge. Never done that. I've only seen us beat Chelsea once in my lifetime. Lewis Barmorte scored after 5 minutes, and we held on.
What a player.
He's back at Fulham now, but we held on for 95 minutes. Like, generally we did. We were like, but we won 1-0. But we've had some, like you did last night. I remember a Carlos Bocanegra equaliser. Carlos Bocanegra, New Year's Day, 94th minute, made it 1-1 in front of the away end.
Was Steve Malbronk still playing?
Steve was playing. We had Sylvain Legwinski. We had Thomas Rosinski. We had Brian McBride up front. It was a lower Premier League team.
Yeah.
Lower Premier League team. But that's where we are. So we are going to talk about the different pathways, different evolution. I'm trying to seamlessly link that from football. I don't know if I've done it all right. I really don't. But I came through the ranks at a builder's merchant, and I've been running my own business for 19 years now. You've come through the ranks at merchanting, with marketing, and you're doing your own thing now. I noticed a post you put out about Go Construct and, you know, the opportunities to get people into the sector. And what I loved was all the different pathways and the routes in. Let's bring that to life, because attracting the stars of the future is something I am so passionate about.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. You know, construction as a whole is never seen as a great industry to be seen in, apparently. And I can't stand it. I hate the stigma that construction is a horrible place to be. You don't realise how lucky you are to be in this industry until you're in it. It is a great industry. It's, as I said before, it's a people industry. Whether you're on site, whether you're in the yard, whether you're in marketing, in finance, in IT, there's a job for everyone. and it's such a great place to be. I think the one thing that's been missing is the programme to push through, to actually get the kids from 13 to 17 to 16 to 18 in and get them encouraged. Because at school, it's a go to university, do this. But actually, you can now start an apprenticeship, go all the way to master's level, earn while you learn, and don't come away with a £60,000.
Jack the lad O'Connell, who works for me, and again, this story always makes me laugh. He's mates with my youngest son, Henry. He came in for 2 weeks work experience during the first lockdown, never left.
Yeah.
He's doing a 4-year degree apprenticeship.
That's
So he done really well at Basvic, so he's a clever kid, but he's a down-to-earth lad, really suits what we do, but he's doing a degree apprenticeship, so he's,
Brilliant.
and we give him a day off a week, and he's at University of West London, and we had Damien Waters on. He was saying something which was so good. He said, I went to an all-boys school in Greenwich, South East London, and he said most of my classmates were the and sons, JJ Roofing and son, Mickey's Pierce Plumbers and son.
Yeah.
He said that, and that was the generation that's where they went. Now, construction and merchanting is competing with the .com industry, it's competing with media, it's competing with everything, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So it has to create those pathways, and that's something that I guess you were, as a young merchant ambassador, and the work you did with BMF, that would have been something you was passionate about then as well.
Yeah, so when I was BMF chair 5-6 years ago, that's one of the big things for me, sort of going out into schools and actually talking to them normally, like not talking at them, but actually, because that's what happens, actually talking to them, just getting them to understand.
Funny enough, when you
roles.
talk to a room full of kids, they don't listen if you talk at them.
Oh, never.
No.
Never. But that was one big driver for me. And I always found the kids really wanted to actually listen and engage, whether it was a brick and block on the stand or there was a video that they were talking about, whether it be a sort of, you were looking at a development going up. But the problem was always the parents coming in and saying, actually, my son's going to be this, my daughter's going to be that. And you go, give them the opportunity.
Same with football coaching. The problem was never the kids on the pitch.
Exactly.
When I used to coach at Fulham, I used to have them from the roughest, toughest cancer estates or dropped off by their nanny because their dad was a leading surgeon, right? When they're on the pitch...
And nothing in between.
When they're on the pitch, nothing matters.
No.
It was absolutely wonderful. Challenges with coaching is parent management. And the FA are doing well with that. And that is the educational piece, because it can't just be the school. It can't just be potential sectors. You do need parents on board with it as well.
So that's the one thing I've always found was missing in terms of the link coming through. Where do you go from an apprenticeship all the way through to going through? Construction Youth Trust, they've actually got pilots around London at the moment where kids that are in a trade at the moment, whether a bricklayer, between 16 and 18, they give them almost like a platform to actually go into an apprenticeship for 8-9 months and actually get them to go on. If they don't like it, they leave. But it gives them the platform. Because the issue is, they're doing it at college. There's no next line to go on. So with what's Go Constructed do, they put out some fantastic information on possible routes into the industry, because they could be vocational and they could be, actually they are better with their hands than they are with their head. But actually it just takes them a little bit of time to understand what they're looking at. I'm more visual, so I will definitely pick more things up visually than I do reading it.
See, I've got 2 boys. Harry's 23, and he's very academic and very bright. And if he applies himself, he'll be an A-star student and be whatever he was. But the application area is the thing there. But very bright, very creative. He's a couple of floors up. To be fair, he's here now. But Henry, the younger one, was really dyslexic, so he struggled with traditional learning, and he really battled at school. So as a youngster, he would be if you were visiting the school, he'd be the one opening the door for you, taking you round, showing you all the place, anything to get him away from a book, anything to get him away from reading. And he's kind of look at how he puts different strategies in to learn, and you go through all the emotions. And he's doing something now which is one of the most courageous and inspirational things I see people doing. But that, how they learn and what the potential is. You think if they become a tradesman, they set their own business up. Stephen Johnson, the installers working for KUKA, they're on 6 figures plus.
Yeah.
They're creaming it. They're doing so well.
I was exactly the same. Like at school, that I was always all right. I wasn't I got 2 Bs, 2 Cs, and the rest Ds and Es.
That's about my stamp, mate. It's like they could do better stamp,
didn't struggle. In fact, I had to take my maths 3 or 4 times to get into college. But from college.
Did you take the higher paper or lower paper, man?
I think it was lower paper.
Yeah, because I was going for the one that gives you the A or B.
Yeah.
But then you could get nothing, and they put their arm around my shoulder, a bit of coaching, saying, we think we're just going to put you down to the other one, and you could definitely get a C. I dropped down and got the C. Yeah. And I was really pleased I did that because I don't think I could have got the higher stuff, but that was a good teacher that did it.
Yeah.
And that kind of where I guess we were with those grades, Jamie. We're that kind of, you're not flying at the top where they want to celebrate you and push you harder, but you're not right down at the bottom where they've got to get you to a pass level, and you can be forgotten there, can't you?
The best thing for me was at college, and I don't even know. I don't think she's teaching now, but
Where'd you go to college?
Lewis.
Yeah.
My best teacher was a woman called Margaret Page.
Shout out to Margaret Page.
She was a legend, and she was proper strict. But I don't know what it was, but she taught us sport, and she's brilliant. Absolutely. And she literally just mapped it out, and it just clicked. And I ended up getting 2 A's and a C. Got into Southampton. I did a gap year in Australia because it was the best thing. And then did my degree.
Could you try again?
Don't you love Siri when it goes on?
I mean, she just wants confirmation you did do the gap year in Australia,
Yeah.
to be fair. I think we leave that in, Charlie. I think we got to leave that in,
That's
mate.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And then sort of got the degree at uni, got a 2-1, ended up doing post-grad at Birmingham, and then went on to do my Masters. If you'd have said to me at 16, you get a Masters, I'd have laughed at you. No chance. But you develop in different stages.
But that's life, though. I mean, I tell the story that was like from growing up on a single-parent Fulham council estate, working on a market stall, misspent, and I will use the words misspent youth on the football terraces and the acid house era, because that was my time. But misspent youth on the football terraces, corporate boardrooms, because I did work for merchants at a long time, to a life-changing recruitment business. And now I do digital storytelling. Who'd have mapped that out? Because all I really did as a young sales rep, young sales manager, was talk to people. Yeah. And I really enjoyed talking to people, and I had the ability to listen and remember, and there's some gifts. But it's amazing how your path goes. So you've gone from just not scraping through, but you've gone from that guidance at college all the way up to Masters while you're working. You've now got your own business. Let's put you in front of the next generation and share that story, because I think if you get the right person, I mean, I've done work at Lewis Prison with prisoners that want to set their own business up. I've done work with schools and colleges. Sometimes you can just pick 2 or 3 people that have got something, and you're like,
absolutely.
It comes.
And I think this is where the BMF, the ambassador sort of role comes in, where actually you can go out and actually start talking to kids. And actually
Mickey Philippa was doing that for a while. And
I saw him a couple of weeks ago, actually.
I love Mick, so Mick's quality, so we go back a long, long way.
Yeah.
And if you put someone like him in front of anyone, you're going to feel inspired.
Yeah.
You can't not.
And I think the thing that's now just about to plug the gap, that's been long coming, is the new LEAP apprenticeship forum that BMF just released. This is for the first time actually given a pathway for the apprenticeships, for the college trainees to go through and actually map the process through. So from apprenticeship all the way through. So if you want to be in the yard, if you want to be in finance, there's a role there for you with the education on it to support. I
mean, taking off my Foyne Jones hat, taking off my Jones Digital hat, taking off my Fulham hat, which I've got on, just parking all that for one side. If Jamie Pearce, if you're ever doing anything in and around this area with like that generation of people, and you need someone, a co-pilot or someone to come along, and I'd love to be involved in anything like that with you. Because it's something I'm really passionate about.
I think actually in a couple of weeks' time there's a construction excellence, I think it's a meeting or something, and they're plugging about going into schools. But I mean, our 2 stories could work.
Yeah. I'm just seeing it as something.
Really
I'm seeing it as something that people can really resonate, because it is that's going to inspire.
You also got me thinking about how we could actually give back, and that part of now running the business, you're allowed to give back in terms of the education going into schools, but like sort of running like seminars and stuff like that for kids that.
But do you know? we've got colour coded timing things here. So, but do you know another thing you mentioned about college? Like I went to a quite a tough Fulham school. I mean, it closed down a couple of years after I left. The police used to turn up in assembly and arrest people. It was tough.
Yeah.
But I did okay, and I did okay because I played football to a reasonable level. I was sporty, and you got your head down. You had the intelligence. But I went to Kingston College, which to me was the different world. That was I got a bus from Putney Bridge, and it took me to this place called Kingston, which had trees and grass and lots of nice girls from nice girls' schools in and around the area. So very different learning. I think I did business marketing, like a BTEC, I think it was called.
I did BTEC. Yeah.
But the couple of years I did there, I learned so much. I learned how to work a computer. I learned, and those skills you take everywhere.
And that's the one thing. So we talk about sort of apprenticeship, but also not everybody can afford to further their education, and that's where sort of working with the Workshop Company, their sort of a bursary form that actually there's £2,000 available for education going forward. So working with the NEA Trust, you can, as long as you're working within the building materials sector, so manufacturer, merchant, supplier, you can actually have access to that and actually push your career further.
So let's use this episode. Let's use episode 7 of the Foyne Jones Show to send that message, Jamie. What we'll do is we will include that on all of our marketing, all of our content. We'll let people know those bursaries available.
Awesome.
We'll get when we put our teaser clips out, Charlie, we'll make sure these feature highly on the teaser clips, and we'll bang the drum because actually we can help people and we can do more than give something back. It's been a brilliant Personally, I like the Brighton and Fulham banter the best. I had that in our script. I had it there. Brighton and Fulham banter. That was. Well, this is the podcast diary, Charlie. This is the podcast diary. So we had that in there.
And I'll tell you what, I'd like to invite you to a Brighton match when Fulham aren't playing, because you'll probably be on TV quite a bit. So anytime you want to come down as my guest, I'd be honoured to come down.
And I will, as we're gifting, I've got two little presents for you, just to wrap the show up. And I will get you to I'll get you to Craven Cottage whenever you want. But there's one for you, sir. Signed copy of my book, Lockdown Diaries.
Lovely.
There's one for your sister because of all the good stuff she did for Maya Henry. So
shout out to Inspire Gardens.
Shout out to Inspire Gardens. Laura, you wait till you've got an idea what Henry's going to be doing, but she was brilliant. Absolutely
I'll
brilliant.
pass it on. Thanks, mate. Really appreciate it.
Really good to get you on the show. Charlie, before we finish, I've just got something I'd like to say. I got some, thank you, Jamie and Charlie, for your patience today. I wouldn't say I've been fully match fit. I got some quite shocking news yesterday, this morning, that one of my closest mates, someone I grew up with on the terraces at Fulham, Mickey Hitchcock, and he is from the Hitchcock family. So Mickey Hitchcock, he sadly lost his battle with cancer. He leaves his granddaughter, he leaves his boys, his grandson. He's an absolute top lad, and you say these things quite regularly now, and they're chanting a lot. But Mickey Hitchcock from Fulham was one of your own. God rest your soul, Mickey. R.I.P. mate. You are forever Fulham, and you always be in mine and my family's hearts. Thanks for listening. That was the Foyne Jones Show, episode 7. Jamie, you've been a brilliant guest. We will see you next time with a special guest from the world of plant hire, and she has got a story to tell. We're the Foyne Jones Show, getting you back to business. Thanks for listening. That's the end of the podcast. In the next episode, I'm joined by the talented El Irwandu from Mr. Plant Hire.